The mainstream Marxist media is completely and totally humiliated as the latest Gallup poll shows President Trump's approval hitting an all-time high. That's what we'll be talking about on today's video. It's right, as much as the left-wing activists disguised as journalists have tried, and I believe me, they've tried their very best. They've gone above and beyond any level of hysterics anyone could have imagined possible. But as much as they've tried to bring down President Trump, they've only proven that less and less people give a rip about what they think. We're going to take a look at President Trump's latest poll numbers and why they reveal that the days of the mainstream Marxist media's influence over public opinion have indeed come to an end. You're going to absolutely love it. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here with you. I certainly hope you're all safe and sound on this lovely locked down Tuesday. If this is your first time here at this channel, we post 2 videos a day analyzing current events, analyzing some super awesome conservative trends so that you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. So you know what to do if you haven't already done so, right? You make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You're going to love interacting with this online community of conservatives from all over the world on a regular basis. It's absolutely wonderful. Let's begin with our video chat question of the day. We've got a good one for you. Which network do you despise more, CNN or MSNBC? I know it's a bit of a trick question, but let us know in the comments down below. Which network do you find more odious, CNN or MSNBC, and why? Because, you know, we're going to take a look really at just how irrelevant these networks have become as their attempt to bring down President Trump over this whole coronavirus pandemic has failed miserably. Now, before we get into the details of that, let's give a huge shout out to our good friends over at Noble Gold, who are supporters of this channel. If the coronavirus has turned your financial life upside down and you need help to sort out your choices to get back on track, you should definitely talk to our good friends over at Noble Gold. Their team has helped hundreds of families through this crisis, and they can guide you right back to safety and give you ideas of how to get there. So remember, when you need a financial friend, Noble Gold will always be there for you. Give them a call at 877-646-5347. That's 877-646-5347, or just simply hit that link down below and get their free investor's guide. Tell them Dr. Steve sent you. You'll be glad that you did. All right, let's dive in here, gang. We got some great news, astounding news coming out of the Gallup organization. The latest Gallup poll for President Trump has him right now with an all-time high approval rating of 49%. That's up 6 points from another Gallup poll from 2 weeks back when he kind of hit rock bottom. Now, the new approval number is tied for Trump's personal best in Gallup's polling data, and it's also a rare instance in Gallup's polling history where Trump's approval ratings are above water, as we say, whereas approval outpolls his disapproval. He's got 49% approving, 47% disapproving. Now, here's what's really exciting. This 6-point jump in Trump's overall approval ratings is owed primarily to a surge in support among independents. 47% of independents approve of Trump's handling of the coronavirus outbreaks, which is up from 39% that approved 2 weeks ago. Trump remained rock solid among his Republican base in this poll. 93% of Republicans support him, approve of him. Now, there are 2 major takeaways here from this poll as we continue to march towards November. The first takeaway is that this surge in Trump's approval numbers, this 6-point surge from 2 weeks ago, is very important in relation to the single most accurate election forecasting model, which we've talked about on other videos. It's called the primary model. It is the single most accurate forecasting model for predicting the outcome of presidential elections. Elections in general, by the way. It was a model that projected the massive landslide win for Boris Johnson and the Conservatives in Britain, back in December. And it's going to be an important guide for us as we approach November. This is the model used by the Stony Brook University professor Helmut Norpoth. It's known again as the primary model. You can go to its website. Now, according to Norpoth's model, the popular vote winner in the primaries always goes on to win the general election. That's one of the keys to projecting the winner of any election. The popular vote winner in the primaries always goes on to win the general election. What's so interesting is that Norpoth bases such an observation by studying elections going all the way back to 1912. That was the first year when candidates had to win a number of primaries. And in each case, what Norpoth found was that when he plugged in the data from the primaries, particularly the early primaries, into the statistical algorithm of his model, the winners determined by the algorithm lined up each and every time with the actual winner from every election since 1912. I think the model was wrong once, if I recall, at one point, but the model has a near perfect record in predicting presidential election outcomes. And so as a result, Norpoth, of course, predicted that Trump would win the 2016 election. And that's because he recognized, among other things, that while Hillary barely managed to squeak by the primary challenge from Bernie Sanders, Trump soundly defeated, 15, 16 of the GOP's finest, earning more votes than any Republican candidate in history. Now, we did a video on this a few weeks back, but Norpoth has run his numbers for the 2020 election. And as of now, according to this election forecast model, Trump has a 91% chance of beating Joe Biden. Now, again, to keep this perspective in place here, back in 2016, Trump had an 87% chance of beating Hillary, according to this forecast model. He now has a 91% chance of beating Biden. This is because Biden, until the South Carolina primary, was considered politically dead. I mean, he was trounced in Iowa. He was trounced in New Hampshire. He actually came in 5th in New Hampshire. He was trounced in Nevada. Whereas President Trump has been setting new records for an incumbent seeking re-election. Trump is basically getting 2 or 3 times the vote shares that Obama got back in 2012, which was the last time an incumbent ran for re-election. However, if you go to the primary model website, there's a disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that due to the unprecedented nature of the coronavirus, Norpoth may have to change his prediction, especially in light of any possible crack in Trump's support. So Norpoth's website says that if Trump's poll numbers start tanking in the midst of this unprecedented situation, he's going to have to reconsider the algorithm's assessment. And so this is why Trump's approval ratings during this time are so important as far as I'm concerned. If this model was so dead on accurate, and if its prediction of Trump's reelection is now being qualified based on a possible erosion in Trump's approval numbers, then that ought to get our attention. But I am thankful to report that Professor Norpoth has been reading the polls as well, particularly Gallup's, tracking the president's approval over the last couple of months. And he has since confirmed his original prediction. President Trump does indeed have a 91% chance of beating Joe Biden, largely because these poll numbers have been so good. So that's the first takeaway. These poll numbers are fully in line now with the most accurate election prediction statistical algorithm that has Trump winning a landslide victory in November. Now, the second takeaway is rather obvious. These poll numbers are complete and total embarrassment for the mainstream Marxist media. This is a total and complete repudiation of the left-wing activists disguised as journalists that comprise our mainstream media. Make no mistake, they're shell-shocked by these numbers, these poll numbers. They're shell-shocked. It reminds me of a piece written by the editors of the New York Post entitled "Media Mystified as America Rallies Behind President Trump During Coronavirus Crisis." It's a good piece because it was put together by the editorial board of the New York Post, who obviously recognize what's been going on of late among the left-wing activists disguised as journalists in the mainstream Marxist media, which we could simply refer to now as the pro-China media, right? The editorial board slams the blatant attempt by the mainstream media to take President Trump down over this coronavirus. They are hell-bent at getting the majority of the American people to blame Trump's supposed lack of preparedness or slow response on the high amount of infections and rising death toll. The media is actively attempting this. They are deliberately trying to get the American people to blame an American president for the pandemic. How else do you describe the absurd hysterics at the White House press briefings? The barrage of gotcha questions that serve one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to try to make the president look bad. That's the only purpose these absurd questions serve. And to the other shock of these left-wing activists disguised as journalists in the mainstream media, to their shock, It's not working. And so the New York Times has recently had to run the headline, "Who are the voters behind Trump's higher approval ratings?" And as the editorial board mocked in the New York Post piece, the New York Times may as well have written the headline, "Who are the idiots that are giving Trump these high approval ratings? Who could possibly even consider that Trump is acting in a competent and responsible manner, since none of us at the New York Times think so, and we're so enlightened," right? Who are these people? Well, let's be blunt. Whoever they are, they're not reading the New York Times. They're not listening to CNN. We talked about this yesterday, but the cold, sobering truth for the pro-China media, the mainstream Marxist media, is that their trustworthiness is currently at an all-time low. While trust in the media has been steadily eroding for the last 2 decades, now it seems to really have hit rock bottom. The recent Morning Consult poll that surveyed the most trusted brand names in the nation found that only 8% of Americans trust the mainstream media. 8%. It's an astonishing collapse in trust. And without a sense of trusting in the accuracy of the information being reported, the mainstream Marxist media simply can't survive. I think that's why they've turned to, frankly, the tabloidization of the news. CNN is it's just a cheap tabloid at this point. There isn't a dime's worth of difference between CNN and, say, the National Enquirer. Well, I'm sorry on that one, right? That's not entirely true. At least the National Enquirer actually does have some good reporting from time to time. Sorry, comparing CNN, the Chinese news network, to the National Enquirer is an insult to the National Enquirer. I know, I get it. So our 2 top takeaways from the latest Gallup poll is that according to the most accurate election prediction model, Trump is well on his way to a landslide victory in November. All the while, the hecklers disguised as reporters in the mainstream Marxist media have been soundly repudiated by more and more people who are completely and totally ignoring them. Now, before you go, you will definitely want to check out my latest video I just uploaded. You're going to absolutely love it. It's the mainstream Marxist media that nobody listens to anymore. They're starting to come out and tell the Democrats to dump Biden. It's absolutely hilarious, and it's going to absolutely make your day. So make sure to click on the link, and I will see you over there. God bless.